What's going on, y'all? It's No Bullshit Podcast, man. If you're new here, welcome. If this isn't your first time, welcome back. It's Kai.
Yo, it's Conklin.
Yeah, man. Lots to talk about, right? It's the day after,
Mm-hmm.
Game 7 Sunday. We had two Game 7s and along with the Game 6 for my man's team, I believe on Saturday. So, we'll give you our thoughts on that. But, right off the rip, man, let's talk about it, man.
Woo.
Timberwolves Nuggets. When you talk about cinema, this
Oh man.
is, so okay, let me just read off the stats. So Timberwolves in a shocker win Game 7, score of 98-90. Some stats here: Jaden McDaniels 23 points, 6 rebounds, 3 stocks. Shot 3 for 4 from the 3-point line. Karl Anthony Towns 23 points, 12 rebounds, 3 stocks. Rudy Gobert 13 points, 9 rebounds, 3 stocks. Anthony Edwards, he had 16 points, 8 rebounds, 7 assists, and 2 steals on 6 for 24 shooting and 2 for 10 from 3-point line. Yeah, not Carl Anthony. We had Mike Conley, 10 points, 8 rebounds. He shot 3 for 10. Then you had Nas Reed giving 11 points in 22 minutes off the bench. Then on the Nuggets side, Jamal Murray, 35 points. He shot 13 for 27, 4 for 12 from three. Jokic, 34 points, 19 rebounds, 7 assists. Shot 13 for 28, 2 for 10 from three. At one point, he was shooting 0 for 6. Um, you know, I don't know. A lot happened on Sunday, but the biggest takeaway was the fact that we just witnessed the biggest blown lead in Game 7 history. You know what I'm
Yep.
saying? You're talking about a Nuggets team that was up 20, right? Which now is the NBA record for biggest blown lead. And also another record that they just etched their name to the history books. Um, Teams are now 20-1 with up 15 plus points going into the third quarter, right? Like
Mhm.
when you talk about a historic collapse, like this has to go down in history as like one of the biggest collapses in playoff history. And I feel like the only reason why it's not necessarily on the same tier as a 2017 Rockets, right, where they I believe they missed 27 straight threes, is the fact that this team has won a championship before. I feel like because they are the defending champs, they get a little bit of they get a little slack in terms of what happened, but because you can only imagine if this team did not have a championship.
Oh man, all the heat coming their way, and just to add on top of that, like you talking about a tale of two halves, and that was basically it. And like I said, like at halftime, the Nuggets they were cruising pretty much. They were up 15 points, 53-38, right? And then you flip to the second half, the Timberwolves they outscored them in the whole second half, 60-37, right? Including one of those halves, one of those quarters being the third quarter, where the Nuggets could not get a shot in the third.
Nope.
Man, like they only had 14 points, and that was when I think they still had a minor lead, right? But they were just trying to hang on to by a thread, right? And then heading to the fourth quarter, you already know, like the Timberwolves, they're ready to just give it all they got, man. And
Yeah.
I think when I look at this game, you know, obviously Jokic did his thing and Jamal Murray did his thing, right? But we look at the other guys, nobody else had more than 7 points, right? You talking about a guy who's getting paid, Michael Porter Jr., right? Shooting 3 of 12. 3 of 12. Being that I think he went like 0 for 6 or I think 1 of 6 from three or something like that, something crazy. And then Aaron Gordon, only 5 shot attempts. I was kind of surprised. Only 5 shot attempts, because he had a pivotal game 6. He had a
Yep.
pivotal game 6, right? And so I'm. Was it game 6? No, it was game 5.
Yeah.
Sorry, game 5.
Game
Yeah,
5.
yeah, pivotal game 5 where he went nuclear, where he could not miss a shot,
Oh.
right? But to come into this game where he was 2 of 5, but it just looked like the Nuggets didn't really look to feature him at all, right? Which is kind of interesting in my point of view, right? But then you look at the Timberwolves, they knew that not only one guy could carry them, right? But it took a whole team collective. Like you said, Anthony Edwards, Jaden McDaniels, Cat, Rudy, Conley, Reed, all those guys, all starting five, including Reed off the bench, right? They gave him double-digit points,
Yep.
right? And what came down to it, right? It's like I think what the Timberwolves knew what they had to do was slow down the game. The reason being that early on, they're forcing the Nuggets to foul them real early, which caused them to get free throws and get into the bonus really early. You look at the free throw percentages or attempts, right? You got the Timberwolves where they had 30 free throw attempts compared to the Nuggets 16. That says that, and that went a lot higher because of the second half where they especially the fourth quarter. I think they were in the bonus when it's like only 3 minutes, 4 minutes into the quarter, which is insane, right? That's too early. It's way too early, right? And so every little ticky tack foul, is going to shoot, end up in free throws, and the Timberwolves, they're a pretty good free throw team. They only missed 4 shots from there, right? And so when you're able to do that, slow down the game, right? And it's all about momentum at that point. And at that point, the Nuggets, they just couldn't hit any shot, man. Like you said, Jokic, he was 0 for 6 from 3 at one point, which was like, it's like, some of the shots were like going in and out too. It's not like just air balls or just bricks. They was going in and out, just couldn't make it, right? It's like one of those nights, right? Even though you see 34 points on the stat sheet, it's like, okay, he went crazy. But when you look at the game and how those 34 points came to be, it came in like, mini spurts, not really like, I mean, obviously he did dominate, but 34 points is not how you're not, like a 34-point game is not always the same to another 34-point game. You know what I mean? Right? They're all not equal in a sense, right? And then you look for Jamal Murray's point of view. Yes, he did have 35 points, but I'm pretty sure 20 of those, I think almost 20 of those points came from the first half.
Yep.
Right? And in the second half, the Timberwolves, they found a way to lock him down. And then Ant said in his press conference or when he was leaving the building or whatever, right? He said that he locked them up. That's what he basically said. I locked them up. I put them on locks, right? And it's definitely gonna be interesting how the Nuggets go into those offseason and everything, right? I mean, there's always news and perspectives. I know Lakers fans are loving this right now, of course, right? So it's going to be definitely interesting. But it just goes to show that this Timberwolves team right now, I think, should be the favorites. But that's maybe a topic for another day. They're coming to the Western Conference Finals definitely with some momentum, knowing that they can win in any type of way, right? And so I think that's one thing that they definitely learned and they carried on from last playoffs into this playoffs.
Yeah, I'm really happy that you brought up the Lakers, right? Because this is a guy that has been to be quite frank, has been punching down on the Lakers for the last 2 seasons, and this is a guy that I want to spend a little bit of time talking to because I feel as though his behavior yesterday was complete bullshit, and that's Coach Malone, right? Like the reporter asked you a very valid and normal question, especially considering the magnitude of the fact that you just blew a 20-point lead at home in a game 7, the defending champs. He asked you a pretty basic question, and Malone's answer was not only passive aggressive, it was dismissive, and it was very childish. Right? It was very, very childish. You were supposed to be the head basketball coach for the defending champions of the National Basketball Association. And you throw a hissy fit because you get asked a question that you may or may not like because you fucking lost. Well, newsflash, dickhead, you are the coach of the team that just fucking lost. If this was any other coach, if this was Doc Rivers, we would be fucking talking shit about him all across the internet. You
Yep.
feel what I'm saying? That's unacceptable behavior. That's an unacceptable answer. And I feel as though a lot of times, and don't get me wrong, there are some times where reporters take it too far and all this, but you have to understand at the end of the day, these are people doing their fucking job. So can you not be a fucking dickhead or a fucking child when you get asked a question that you may not like because you blew a lead? You blew the lead. I don't know who else did it. Right? You have some accountability, right? And answer the fucking question like an adult. I don't know what the hell that was, But in my opinion, that may or may not be a key reason why your team is now going to Cancun.
Yeah, I definitely agree. His response was it was not. That's just like you said. It was not acceptable at all. You know, talking about a guy that just came off a championship run, right? Now heading for another championship run, and the fashion that he did lose, like you said, right? That question was warranted. We all knew it was coming, right? Especially, man, if you like the way he's acting right now, right? Can you imagine if LeBron was on the other end of this? Can you imagine the magnitude if he did something like Mike Malone just did? I know it's Mike Malone, a coach versus the player, but this is LeBron. Let's be
Uh-huh.
honest here,
Yeah,
right? But it's the same magnitude. It is the
great
same
point.
magnitude, right? And so I feel like there can't be there can't be oh, one side says this, one side says that, right? It's got to be like you got to be like open and honest. It's like yes, we know you're frustrated, right? But like you said, reporters are doing their job. They're asking you a question for a reason. They're like the reporters. We know that sometimes the reporters or ask stupid questions, but at the end of the day, it is their job. There's a reason why they're asked the question. There's always a reason, right? No matter how stupid it is, there's always a reason, right? And Mike Malone, and I feel like we've seen this throughout I think we've seen this, yeah, like for many years now. But it's just that it's now been more emphasized because of like what's happening as of late, the past couple years, especially, right? And so like you said, like, yeah, coming off of a loss like that, you just can't have you just can't go out like that in a sense to like for the past for the media, right? And maybe it's just heated moment, maybe it's just heated moment for sure, right? Just fresh off a loss, so it's like he's in his feelings or whatever. I mean, I feel that's like everybody, right? But at the end of the day, definitely for sure that wasn't like an appropriate response to the question to the reporter.
Yeah. And it's kind of switching gears, when we talk about the Pacers Knicks series, right?
Mm,
Another game seven.
mm,
And this was almost more unexpected, right? Like, not only did the Pacers go into Madison Square Garden and get the job done, but they
mm-hmm.
fucking curb stomped the Knicks, man. Like, holy shit. So, obviously, like I said, Indiana wins game seven. Final score was 130 to 109.
Oh
Here's some
my
stats
god.
for you. Tyrese Halliburton, 26 points, six assists. He shot 6 for 12 from the 3 point line. He had 14 points in the first quarter. He started off the game on fire, bro.
Mm-hmm.
Andrew Nembhard, 20 points, 5 rebounds, 6 assists. He shot 8 for 10. Pascal Siakam, 20 points. He shot 2 for 3 from the 3 point line. Aaron Neesmith, 19 points. He shot 8 for 8 from the field. He did not miss a shot. Miles Turner, 17 points, 5 rebounds, 4 blocks. He shot 2 for 3 from the 3 point line. Then on the Knicks side of things, Dante DiVincenzo, 39 points. This man shot 9 for 15 from the 3 point line, dog. Like, I knew
Yeah.
he had a flamethrower, but holy shit. Then
Mm-hmm.
Alec Burks off the bench had 26 points, and then Jalen Brunson, the lead man, had 17 points, and 9 assists on
Yep.
6 for 17 shooting. So that listen, a lot happened in this game, man. Like, the if I'm not mistaken, I believe at some point the Pacers were up already early in the game by like 20. I think it was
Yep.
like kind of late in the second, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Riding high, and then the Knicks swung back in the third quarter, man. If I'm not mistaken,
Mm-hmm.
at one point going into the fourth, they dropped the lead all the way down to 6 points. Right,
Yep.
it was only a 6 point lead, but it just felt as though as soon as Jalen Brunson got hurt,
Yeah.
it was just raps. You had Alec Burks off the bench, really giving them guys a much needed boost, but it just wasn't enough, man. Like, it's kind of like Pascal Siakam said after the game. He was like, we weathered the storm. We knew that they were going to be able to go on a run, and we were able to power through it, and that they did, man. And in an emphatic fashion. Again, they wound up winning the game by 21. Here's a crazy stat, bro. The Pacers now have the record for the best field goal percentage ever in a playoff game seven. Like, no, in a playoff game period, if I'm not mistaken. So they shot 67.1% from the field, which now again has the record, which was formerly owned by the Boston Celtics in the 90s. And coincidentally, that team also beat the Knicks in the playoffs. Like,
Mhm.
that's crazy, bro. When you really think about, so the last two people to break this record both times was against the Knicks. So it's just one of those things where they just couldn't miss. Like the Pacers just
Yeah.
could not miss. Everybody was hitting every shot,
Mhm.
and when that's happening, and then on top of the Knicks already battling due to injury. And listen, don't get me wrong, and I'm not taking away any credit from the Indiana Pacers. They came to play, and the best team won last night.
Yep.
I'm just saying, for the Knicks side of things, it's just really unfortunate the fact that so many of the starters got hurt. If I'm not mistaken, I believe they had at least 6 players that were either out or in and out of the lineup, right? We had
Yep.
OG Anunoby that it was a question of if he was going to be able to play game 7, and he played for about 5 minutes and realized he just can't go, right? And that
Yeah.
was it's pretty much once he, left the game, it was just like, here we go, another injury. And at this point, that is the thing with the playoffs that a lot of people forget sometimes. It's not just about talent. It's not just about making shots. It's the war of attrition, right?
Mhm.
It's a long season. Not every team can hold it together that long, and some people call it luck. Some people call it this and that. But it's sports at the end of the day, and I can't I can't not beat you just because you have hurt players. Like, I have to take advantage of that. And this is not one of those things where, this kind of the memes about Mickey Mouse runs and all this. Like, when you look
Yeah.
throughout the history of the NBA, really every sport,
Mhm.
every single champion that has won a championship, you can list down at least one instance where they got lucky, right? One
Yeah.
instance
Of
where
course.
the ball just bounced their way. And then again, that's sports. That's the reason why we love sports, because the drama of it all. You could be the best team and still not win.
Yeah. Yeah, man. And just to go back to that point where you was like, you know, we can, when the Knicks are injured, right? It's like the Pacers can't do nothing about it, just to beat them, just to find ways to beat them, right? You capitalize on the other opponents, mishaps, mistakes, or whatever is happening with them, right? Because at the end of the day, you don't worry what the Knicks are, doing. You worry about what you're doing, right? And you say that, like, you brought out like many points about, like, how the Knicks is getting injured and stuff like that, and like lots of different reasons and stuff. You can also say it's Tom Thibodeau. It's also Tom Thibodeau, right? Josh Hart playing an insane amount of minutes, like back to back games where he did not sub out at all, 48 minutes plus, right? Um, but at the end of the day, I just have to credit the Pacers. They not only proved me wrong. I feel like they proved us wrong, and they proved the whole world wrong. And I shout out to them, because one thing that we did not see coming was the defensive adjustment, right?
Mhm.
Because we haven't seen it at all, even the first round, right? And now going to the second round, I think after the first 2 games, you just start seeing a different type of gravy on defense, where you start to see, like, wait a minute, the Pacers are full court press every single play, and
Yep.
they right, and it just goes to show that, like, uh, in sports, you know, we're all meant to be proven wrong, you know, and you don't have, and it's like, nowadays people want to be like, oh, I want to be the first person to be right and stuff like that, right? But sometimes being wrong can be okay too,
Yeah.
right? And that's fine with that. I'll gladly take a slice of, like, humble pie and just, like,
Mhm.
eat my words, right?
Same
And
here.
yeah, and, like, the Pacers, man, like, the way they were able to just put ball pressure on every single person, honestly, it was just amazing basketball to see on defensive end, especially if you're a geek, if you're like one of those type of guys that just pay attention to film and stuff like that. You look at the film, right? They do everything. They did everything perfectly. Every switch, every,
Yep.
like, every game from game 3 and on, pretty much, right? And this game, and I feel like it carried on from game 6, rather, right? They just could not miss. They could not. They couldn't miss at all, right? Like you said, Halliburton. on a heater, 6 to 12. It felt like you give him any slight of of hope or any or like light, he will knock down that three for sure. But it's just tough because I feel like early on in the game, I didn't think the Knicks were doing anything wrong per se. It's just that the Pacers were just making more shots.
Yep.
Simple as that, right? And sometimes it's just one of those days, right? It's just one of those days, right? And you know what? I do hope the Pacers put up a fight and do really well or do somewhat well against the Celtics. It's gonna be a different type of challenge. But I want to focus on the Knicks real quick, right back, and would you want to say that this is a failure of a season? In my opinion, I don't think so.
No.
Right? I don't think so. Given where you were in the beginning of the season and where you ended up now and how you ended off now,
Yep.
it gives you some optimism a little bit,
Absolutely.
right? And I feel like that's something that the Knicks never really had in a while, right? Like you said, I think you mentioned in a pod, I think the last pod rather, right, where Brunson, where the Knicks signed Brunson, and people thought that that was just one of the worst signings of the offseason, or it was nothing. It was like a nothing move, right? It's like, but then you look at it, you look back at it now, it was a steal. It was a steal, man, for the contract that he was given, right, and the way he's been playing. It's just he's outperforming his contract. Simple as that.
100%.
Right. And then you gotta credit the GM, making moves to get Dante DiVincenzo, to get Josh Hart, right, to add a couple pieces in OG, right. And I think heading into this off season, right, I feel like they will look to look for another scorer. They look for another scorer, maybe another point guard off the bench and a big, right. Those are three things that they probably will target, and I think they will target that, right. And it's gonna be interesting how the offseason will look for them because they have a lot of first round picks,
Yes.
right. And so they can trade for a big piece if needed, right. And so it's gonna be interesting for their point of view. But all Knicks fans, shout out to you guys, man. Just believe, don't think that you guys not winning a series that you're supposed to win, but think about it as that this is another next step to build on to next year, right? Because I think this future for this Knicks team is going to be very bright, depending what specific moves they make in the offseason, because they're on the right track.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I understand, Jalen's disposition in terms of, the season being a failure. I can 100% understand it, right? Just lost a game 7 at home. And, if in order to make it to that level in your profession, you have to be that level of a competitor, right? Where you don't want to lose a single game, and anything less than is a failure, right? But if you take a step back, and I'm sure if you give it some time and you ask him that question again, I think he'll be honest. He'll be like, actually, I feel as though, if you take into account all that, this team, had to go through to get this far, to not fall apart in terms of the locker room, like those guys, even in this game, they fought hard every single minute of the series. So always my head is tipped off to those guys. This is coming from a Philly sports fan, right? Us in New York, we butt heads often, but I got nothing but respect for those guys. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Jalen Brunson, Josh Hart, Dante DiVincenzo, those last two guys. That's a lot of teams around the league that are kicking themselves in the ass. The fact that both of those players could have been on any of those teams, right? Whether it's the Milwaukee Bucks and the Golden State Warriors with Dante DiVincenzo, whether it's the Lakers. I'm sure the Lakers would have loved to have a Josh Hart on their team, right? So
100%.
we
Everybody.
talk about shouting out the GM, man, like just making the right moves for that team to put them in this position, right? So I feel as though if this team is fully healthy, they might have been able to give a Boston a run for their money, right? So, and obviously that's the what about isms of it all, but that again, that's sports. So moving on to my man's team, the final team, right? We got Mavs versus Thunder. So I'll just read off a couple stats, and I'm gonna let my man take over, dog. So Shay, let me get into it. So the Dallas wins Game 6. Final score of 116 to 117. Man, couldn't be any closer. Shea, 36 points, eight assists, 2 blocks, shot 4 for 5 from the 3-point line. Jalen Williams, 22 points, 9 rebounds, 8 assists, had 3 stocks, shot 3 for 5 from the 3-point line. Chet, 21 points, 3 rebounds, 1 for 7 from three. On the Mavs side, Luka, 29 points, 10 rebounds, 10 assists. Derrick Jones Jr., 22 points, shot 4 for 6 from the 3-point line. And Kyrie Irving, 22 points, shot 4 for 10 from the 3-point line. Real quick, 2 players I want to shout out, right? Where this is where the great teams do what they do, because it's not just about your stars, it's about the others, right? So we got Derrick Jones Jr. In his last 3 games, he scored 19, and he scored 17, 19, and 22. And as a collective, he shot 8 for 16 from the 3-point line. And in the last 3 games, his plus minus was a plus 34. Mind you, that's off of the bench. PJ Tucker, and this is not PJ Washington. In this entire series, he's averaged 17.7 points, 8.3 rebounds, 2 assists, and he's made 16 threes in this series. 6-game series, he made 16 threes. His plus minus in the entire series is plus 21, right? On a team where you have a Luka Doncic, you have a Kyrie Irving, right? If you can get production from players like this is a very hard team to beat. It's a very hard team to beat, right? I feel as though if players like this can play on this type of level, they could beat any team on any day. Right? The Mavs won the second half 69-52 after being down 16 at halftime, right? There's been a lot of comebacks, and this one was a great one. OKC, 31 rebounds, only 7 offensive rebounds to Dallas's 47 rebounds and 14 offensive. So they doubled their offensive rebounds. And I say that final point to say, I feel as though from the OKC Thunder side, the number one thing that needs to be on their radar for this offseason is getting a center. I love Chet. I love his game. I feel as though he can be one of the greats in terms of, this league. But they need a true center. They need a true center. There should be no reason why you have a player on the court that is 7-1 and only has 3 rebounds. That's unacceptable. That's unacceptable. And to be quite honest, I feel as though the reason is because Chet is not a center. I feel as though he is a power forward. The way he plays the game, he's really a big, small forward, kind of in the likes of a Lauri Markkanen. But they need somebody in the paint that could take him out of the paint so he can play more of a roaming defensive role, number one, so he doesn't have to bang with the likes of a Jokic, of an Embiid. He can kind of lurk around. And then on top of that, it takes away that responsibility of having to crash boards, he can just find his offense, right? So I feel as though if I am the OKC Thunder, that is the number one need going into the offseason.
Yeah, 100%. Just to piggyback off of that, let me just talk from the Thunder's point of view for a second. Like you said, I think what bit them was the size. When you have Dallas who has 3 different guys, right, or just like a multitude of guys that can just crash the boards and just bang with Chet, right? It's going to be very hard. And I think that was the main question for the Thunder or Chet in general coming to his first playoff series, where he's not built, he hasn't grown into his body yet, right? And like you said, like this is his first actual NBA season, so he's gonna learn to how to mold into the player that he wants to be, right? And like you said, a guy who is more than 7 foot tall, only 3 rebounds is not gonna cut it. It's not. I'm like, it just reminds me to when I'll talk about Porzingis, when we had Porzingis, right, where he failed to get rebounds for us, right, and so but I think Chet has the ability, like you said, to be one of the best players, if not or one of the greatest in the game, in the sense that his ability to not only affect the offensive end but the defensive end. Like he's going crazy on the defensive end in some of these games in the series, right? And I will credit this for the Thunder, where Jalen Williams, he showed up today. He definitely showed up today, man. I feel like he's definitely. I know Shea, he did his thing, right? But I feel like Jalen Williams had more of the impact in the sense that he did a little bit of everything, right? Where you got 22 points, 9 rebounds, 8 assists, 2 steals, 1 block, right, and shooting very efficient too, right? Like we haven't seen a game from Jalen Williams yet, right, where he's done everything across the board that he's been seen to do in like the regular season, right? So shout out to him. But get into the Mavs. What can I say, man? This team, this team, man, never fails to, make my blood pressure go up and down the whole game, right? Like you said, Luka and Kyrie. Luka, he played a great game. He played a great game. I think it was one point in the game where he only missed like 2 shots or 3 shots, right? But they was trying to get the ball out of Luka's hands, right? And Kyrie, God damn! Finally, he kind of showed up in the sense that, like, first half he really didn't do much, but then he showed up in the third quarter. I think he had like 11 points or 13 points in the third quarter per se, right? And he balled out. And I think when you look at our starting lineup, our closing lineup, right? Every single person had their hand in that win down the stretch, right? You want to talk about Kyrie? Taking you want to talk about Luka taking the lead with that shot, step back shot again on Ludor. So I'm talking about when Kyrie hit that three, to give us another lead. Where the Thunder, took the lead back, and then Kyrie hit a big three, just shooter's touch, right? And then you got PJ where he was in foul trouble early on in the game, in which that's why he didn't do much on the stat sheet. But he hit 2 big threes for us, and there's one shot that I will get into later in a bit, but Derrick Jones Jr. late shot clock running down. If you guys saw that game, he just threw it up there, and Shed played perfect defense, right? But Derrick Jones Jr. found a way to make it in, right? And then you got my man Derek Lively, a fucking rookie, man, a rookie having I think you mentioned this earlier, but plus 26. Plus a plus minus of 26, right? And that is the highest for any rookie in NBA history, right? And it just goes to show, man, it's 12 rebounds, 12 points, 15 rebounds. You got a block, a steal, all the bunch, 3 assists, and he's shooting a efficient 5 or 6, and the free throws down the stretch. And I want to shout out where the thing what he said after the game where they asked him, yeah, being a rookie in this big moment, how did you just find ways to succeed? He said that when he got fouled late on that and one, right? He heard a whisper in his ear, and we all know if you guys don't know, his mother did pass away, right? And so relating to that, on his trying to make his and one free throw, he said that he heard a whisper from his mom saying that if you don't make this, you're trash, right? And he made the bucket, and it's like, it's just one of those things that you love to see, man, right? Where like sometimes when people go through emotional things like this, they tend to like just spiral down sometimes, and this warrants it, right? But this guy, he's proven anything but that. He has used that as motivation, and I just love to see it. I want to see more of it, man. And as much as I get frustrated with him on the offensive end, not catching lobs and stuff, he's learning. He's learning, right? He showed up when the brightest are brightest most, and it's just amazing. But getting back to like what I was talking about PJ, foul or no foul. I don't know. We won the game, man. I don't know. We won the game. I mean, I guess the way Richard Jefferson explained it, where basically before he put the ball up, he still had the ball in his hands. So as he was going up, he still has control, but he trying to like, I don't know. He touched the ball or whatever. So I guess it's a foul. I don't know. I guess it is, right? I mean, people, Twitter, Instagram, they can, they can go on and on about it, but we won the game. It is what it is, right? And PJ knocking down those threes, it was big, but yeah, and it's just another. This team has shown me that no matter what is going on, they will find a way to win, and it's shown me throughout these whole playoffs that they can win ugly, right? And I've never seen that before. I've never seen that from a Mavs team of Luka a Luka-led Mavs team where they can play defense and win ugly when things are aren't perfect, honestly, right? And and this is definitely what they needed heading into this, the Western Conference Finals when they. And we're going to talk about the Timberwolves, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I did see with this one thing, and I just got to say, top 3 MVPs, just one left, as the great Kendrick Lamar says, fuck the big 3, it's just big me. You know what I'm saying? So, shout out to Kendrick. But yeah, man.
Yeah, and that's like the perfect segue, right? Right, we got some big time matchups, right? We got the Eastern Conference Finals and the Western Conference Finals. Mavs versus Wolves, Celtics versus Pacers. So, I feel like this is a perfect way to end the podcast, man. Who you got?
Well, you already know. I'm sticking with my Mavs, going all the way, right? But this is definitely going to be a tough series. Very, very tough. As much as I want to say 6, I think it's going 7. I think Mavs in 7.
Mavs in 7. All right.
Yeah.
And listen, bro, you my dog.
I know, yeah.
Gotta go Wolves in 6, man. I feel like they're just the more complete team. Like, even though the Mavs, in my opinion, do have the best player in this series, I just feel like the Timberwolves have proven they're the best team out west. So who you got out east?
Out east, I'm going with the Indian. Yeah, okay, nah. I'm going with the Celtics. But I think I might the Pacers might shock them. I think the Pacers might shock them. I think they might go 6. I think it might go 6. So I think I got Celtics, but I'll say 6 and 6.
Okay.
Not like a worry, like not like a type of thing, but like they'll sneak by here and there 2 games, but
Yeah. I
Celtics in
mean,
6.
I really hope we don't have any Indiana Pacers fans like closely watching our podcast because I got Celtics in 5. Like, I don't think this is going to be a competitive series at all.
Yeah,
Um,
or a
in my
sweep.
opinion, the Pacers are just way too inconsistent,
Yeah.
and the Celtics are just way too consistent for barring any unforeseen circumstances. I got Celtics in 5.
Yeah, and wouldn't it be something if we say all this and Pacers just go on a run and just win the championship? That would be crazy. That'd
Listen,
be
that would
crazy.
be the no bullshit podcast curse. You know what I'm saying? But with that being said, man, you guys have been going crazy on all our social medias, all of our videos. Again, if you haven't seen our last football video, it is now our most viewed video on our channel. So listen, let's see if we can get it to 200. Right? It's
Yeah.
our 49ers and Chargers outlook. So we definitely, obviously, will be pumping out a lot more videos, not only on football, but we're going to finish off this playoff run. But with that being said, man, it's been a no bullshit podcast. Make sure you guys like, comment, share, subscribe, and we'll catch you on the next one.
Yes, sir. Peace out.